What's up, everybody? I'm Stephen Boyd, the Student Engagement Agent, CEO of SB Entertainment, and I'm so excited to be able to share with you 5 things that highly effective educators need to know. Let's get started. The first thing that highly effective educators need to know is their instructional content. Now, that may sound like it's kind of common sense, but the truth of the matter is, when I first started out, I thought I knew everything as a music teacher about music, historically, musically, but there are things when I got into the teaching moments that I said, ooh, I don't know that content as well as I thought I did, and in some cases, I taught some things wrong. So the first thing that highly effective educators need to definitely know is they have to spend time with their content standards and make sure they understand their unit plans, the scope and sequence, so they can teach their instructional content highly effectively. The second thing that highly effective educators definitely need to know is they need to know the culture of their community. I'll never forget attending a workshop and listening to some teachers express some frustration about low test scores in their specific area. And as I engaged them in conversation, what I learned was the impetus behind some of that is they lived in a transient area near a military base, which means that some students will come in as a result of their parents or one of their parents being deployed to the area while others would leave. The problem is when it came time to test, in March and April or May, the students that perhaps were strong now are leaving while you're getting new students maybe a week or 2 weeks or maybe a couple of days before students would test. The outcome would be students who would test didn't know the content. But the cool thing I liked about this is they understood the culture of their community and they did all they could to adapt to make changes to adjust to the culture of their community. Now, I know that's a little bit of an extreme example, but there are other examples in terms of the social, geographical mentality, culture of the community. And a highly effective educator is going to do all they can to really understand the outward culture of that community and hopefully use some of that context of that culture and weave it into their content so that there's ownership and excitement among the students that they serve. The third thing that highly effective educators need to know is they need to know the school's culture, the organizational culture of the school. Now, this is highly important for a couple of reasons. Number one, with respect to that principal's vision or their mission, they need to know the school culture because there are parts of that culture that you need to adapt to be successful. And then there are other parts of that culture that you need to understand because you need to avoid certain people or avoid certain practices. And so every school has their own culture. And so a highly effective educator would do all they can to understand the pros and the cons of that culture. For example, perhaps maybe early on, we were taught this in undergrad that you want to do all you can to be careful of the faculty lounge. Well, why you'll be careful of the faculty lounge? Because many times the faculty lounge is the somewhat of the gossip area where teachers would just kind of vent and let some things go. But highly effective educators use that and endear that with a grain of salt. You want to be highly effective, and as my grandfather used to say, you want to eat the meat and spit out the bones. So if we go into a myriad of examples as relates to culture, we want to understand what the culture is in terms of grading policy. We want to understand the culture in terms of behavioral expectations. We want to understand the culture in terms of lunch and recess and how we enter the building, how we exit the building, how we talk to each other as staff members, how we resolve conflict among staff members. We want to understand that internal culture to be highly effective because every high tide rises to the top as a result of understanding the internal culture that's within the school. The fourth thing that highly effective educators need to know is they need to know how to professionally collaborate with others. When you think about it, your background might be social studies or English or science, but in the truest sense, when we think about real learning, there's evidence of all that learning in all of our subject matter. There's evidence, for instance, in music, there's evidence of science. In science, there's evidence of social studies. In social studies, there's evidence of English, and so on and so forth. So professional collaboration, also known as PLCs, are opportunities where teachers get to be the experts one to another and plan together and collaborate based on their background, their expertise. They get to cross-curricularly come together to share their expertise one with another for the benefit of those students. So if you can imagine planning lessons together and planning units together, however, you're coming at it from an artistic background, somebody else is coming at it from a scientific background, and still someone else might be coming from it from a technological or maybe an engineering background. It is the perfect storm. And so being able to professionally collaborate and listen to your other colleagues give you information makes you a better teacher, because then when you're teaching, perhaps as an English teacher, as a result of working with your colleagues professionally in that collaboration, you can bring in maybe science or STEM or mathematic references that allow students to make the connection between, oh, that's what we learned in the social studies class, and I hear you saying it as well. So being able to professionally collaborate with your colleagues and see them as experts is one of the things that makes highly effective educators some people that are really sought after. The final thing that highly effective educators need to know how to do is be open, honest, and very clear communicators. I believe it's a quote by Nat Turner that said that good communication is the bridge between confusion and clarity. Now, it takes some time to be a good communicator, because oftentimes there are some of us who are strong in communicating certain things and others of us that maybe were emerging to be better communicators. Here's one of the things that I always try to encourage people to keep in mind. When you're communicating, make sure you're aware of your personal space. Number two, make sure you're aware of your tone, your volume, and your cadence. And consider, have you thought through what you're going to communicate, whether it's through texting, whether it's through email, or whether you have a personal conversation with someone. I think ultimately what we always want to ensure is, as highly effective educators, we can clarify our point in an open and honest way where people hear us, but most importantly, if we're talking about a dialogue, we listen to others. The truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, everybody just wants to be heard and understood and validated. So when you open and honestly communicate within the context of your classroom or within your grade level or with your leadership in a local school, you are on your way to being a highly effective educator if you learn how to openly and honestly communicate effectively. Hey, thank you so much for the opportunity to share with you 5 things that every highly effective educator need to know. I'm Stephen Boyd, the Student Engagement Agent. If you'd like to connect with me, you can go to my website at www.iamstephenboyd.com. You can also connect with me on Facebook and Instagram at I Am Stephen Boyd. Perhaps you can connect with me on LinkedIn at I Am Stephen Boyd Now. You can also view some of my content at I Am the Engagement Agent. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Take care, and bye-bye.